that was an Andantino. That's number 14 from Giuliani's Op.50. And follow the lesson for free and pick up some tips. We'll be talking about the classical musical texture in this particular piece, and many classical pieces like this. So follow that for free. But if you're interested, I do have an edition of all 32 works in his Op.50, and there's a link for that in the description. This particular piece, number 14, is very much like a traditional classical texture. We have that melody on top. So you can practice that melody on its own and make sure you shape it the way you want and make it very legato, and then you can add the accompaniment voice in. So this accompaniment pattern is an Alberti-based pattern, which is very common in the classical era. You know, if it was on piano, you might have the melody in the right hand, and the left hand would be going, you know, bass, inner note, bass, inner note. And so it's a very traditional, or like very common pattern of the era, and it does happen on guitar as well. So you could practice that on its own as well. And the way you probably want to think of it is this being the bass voice and this being the inner voice. So we kind of have like a melody as our priority, then the bass voice that can be somewhat resonant, and then that inner voice with the I finger can be relatively soft and pretty much suppressed. So sometimes when I'm playing a piece like this, I'll grab just the first bar or something, or the first figure, and just repeat it so I can teach my hand how to handle the texture. You know, I can experiment with bringing the melody up more. Adding a little bit more bass from the thumb, but still keeping the I finger soft. Almost inaudible in the I finger. Not inaudible, but... You can practice like growing and with some growth and decay. So just getting a handle on that texture. And then after that, there's not too much to talk about in this piece. The melody's clear from start to finish, and you have that Alberti bass figure most of the time. You have a couple of cadences that you have to work out, but that's pretty much it. So let's just do a small walkthrough. Before we do, though, one thing I'll mention is that in measure 7, in the original is an A instead of C in the bass voice, which I'm pretty sure is a typo that we're talking about. I don't think that's what it was. Pretty sure it was supposed to be a C. It's just a small error. But just so you know, there's a note about that in my edition. So let's go through it. So as soon as you get there, to make sure the accompaniment is staying relatively soft. A little bit of activity in that cadence there. And when you're switching there, we're just keeping our third finger down. And then so we're using our fourth finger there because third finger is used here, fourth finger. And again, I say this in all my videos, but if your fourth finger is having trouble reaching that note, make sure you're aligned. If I'm even slightly misaligned, I can't even reach that note, and my finger's extended. But if I swing that knuckle around, I can reach that note no problem and have curvature in the finger. So from bar 12, irregular move at the end there. Pretty short piece and a very traditional texture. So once you work on that and you kind of have a feeling for that and you've worked on the melody, you should be able to put the piece together relatively easily. Always there's things to work on, and certainly in this piece it's that balance of melody, bass, and accompaniment that you want to just make sure you have worked out in order to bring the piece to life. If you don't, it can be very blocky and kind of silly. There's not as much happening musically when it's presented like that. But once you start defining those different voices and refining your ability to balance that, it becomes a little bit more sophisticated.